Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Urban Update. I'm Byron Barnett. On the show today, information on a taste of ethnic Boston, also details around the Cambridge Jazz Festival, and the latest on the upcoming Puerto Rican Festival of Massachusetts. But up first, diversity or lack thereof, especially at the higher levels in the police ranks here in Boston, remains an issue. Yet according to our next guest, the Boston Police Department continues to use a drug testing modality that courts have found to be scientifically unreliable and racially discriminatory. This morning we will hear from the legal organization that is representing 10 African-American former police officers in an employment discrimination case contesting the Boston Police Department's use of hair samples in drug screenings. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Economic Justice contend that the Boston Police Department's hair test has a statistically significant adverse impact against African Americans because it generates false positive results in processing the type of hair common to many African Americans. Now, to tell us more about the case, we've invited the Executive Director for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Economic Justice, Yvonne Espinoza, and Larry Ellison, who's president of the Massachusetts Association of Minority Law Enforcement Officers. Gentlemen, welcome to Urban Update. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Yvonne, let me start with you by just sort of going over the explanation for these adverse readings on these tests and really what this test is all about.
Well, the problem with the hair test is that it generates false positives in processing the type of hair that is common to many African American and black people, and that's because this type of hair has more melanin, and that attracts cocaine chemicals known as metabolites that could be lying anywhere in the environment. So the test can't distinguish between actual drug consumption or use and environmental contamination. And that's the problem here. The problem, as we have proved, is that there's a significant statistical disparate impact along the lines of race. You know, you look at the numbers, and the numbers are racially skewed. This negatively and adversely affects people of color.
Okay. Now, Larry Ellison, I guess why, in your opinion, is this case so critical? And give me a sense of, I guess, how this affects the diversity of the police force.
Well, that's a very good question. And the reason of that being is that because of the number of officers based on attrition of color who came on back in the early 80s and such, those numbers are dwindling based on retirement alone. So to lose 10 officers of color at a time like this, when we're on average maybe getting 2 or 3 in each recruit class, you can see the significance of losing 10.
Mm-hmm. Now, the actual test, again, this is a drug test because you have to get it when you get hired, and you have to get your test, you know, periodically as a police officer. They literally snip your hair and cut drugs. Is that how they do it?
Yeah, they take 3 samples of hair from somewhere on your body. If you don't have enough hair on your head, they'll take them from your underarms or your chest area. And that's done prior to your birthday, somewhere around your birthday, within a 90-day window.
Okay, all right. Now, Yvonne, I guess what's the status of the case? And you know, the plaintiffs or legal steps. Just talk to me about the case, where it's at right now.
Well, we have one case pending against the Boston Police Department concerning the hair test, where the Federal Court of Appeals has already found that there is a racial disparity that comes with the use of the test. And there's an additional case that we're not litigating, but that's pending also in court, where the state court has found that the test is not scientifically reliable. So we have multiple courts already saying that the test is discriminatory and not reliable. But the city's still defending the hair test case. And right now what the city is doing, particularly in our case, is trying to prove that there's a legitimate business need that is met by using the hair test. We, of course, oppose this vigorously because we see any type of vehicle that prevents the police from being diverse and inclusive of everyone in the community as something that is harmful, right? Diversity is an important component of a accountability and community representation.
Larry, what are some of the issues in terms of diversity that still affect the Boston Police Department as far as you're concerned?
The big issue is hiring. We're still lacking that. Our numbers are down considerably. When it comes to discipline, if you're an officer of color, you're more likely to be disciplined more harshly, as well as promotions. We have several lawsuits that are active and pending as far as promotion. In fact, we were here before talking about that, and those issues still linger. And even striking is that Yvonne's case that he's handling, some of those officers have been waiting over 12 years for this to be resolved. So this is a long process.
Well, what happens so when so the test is still being administered?
That's right.
And I guess what happens if someone tests positive?
Yeah, and Larry could share a little bit more about that because he's in the force. But essentially, the test is still being used.
It is being used, but in certain cases where some individuals are not treated the same, where you're supposed to get 45 days, some people are not getting 45 days, so it's like on a case-by-case basis at times.
Do you know of officers who have been terminated because of this test or not been hired?
I don't know of any personally that have not been hired because a lot of times I don't get to see them, but I do know of officers that have been terminated for this.
And by the way, do all police departments use this, or is it common or not common?
Around the country, most departments have gotten away from this type of testing, and I believe the federal government has also stopped using this type of testing because of this.
And I guess what is the position of the Boston Police Department on this?
The Boston Police have been claiming that there's a legitimate business purpose or business need for using this test, but the bottom line is that courts have been finding that it's discriminatory and that it's not reliable. And we need to be able to have mechanisms that allow for diversity and that promote diversity in the police department. That is really key. And one of the things that's concerning is, as Larry just pointed out, this case has been litigated for over a decade. This is something that the mayor has inherited, and it's important for us to be able to move forward and make progress.
I guess in our remaining moments here, maybe your thoughts on both this. Why is it that if the courts, you say the courts have been so forthcoming in saying the test is not scientifically sound, how is it that it continues to continue to be used?
I can't answer for the city, obviously, but it is very disappointing that the city continues to fight tooth and nail, even though this test has been proven to be not reliable and discriminatory.
Any thoughts on that at all, Larry?
The big part of it is that it was bargained by the unions some time ago, and I think that's a big reason why it's still being used.
Okay, and I guess so the case goes on.
The case continues, and we're hoping to be able to make precedent here to allow for community representation in policing.
Okay, I'm going to have to leave it right there. Yvonne Espinoza, Larry Ellison, thanks for coming in, and we'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, coming up, a taste of ethnic Boston, a tasty event you won't want to miss. The details are coming right up.